It's overwhelming, actually. I'm remembering so much and so much of my childhood and so many wonderful experiences and emotional experiences attached to all of these people.
Think of Little House on the Prairie as a perfectly painted picture of pioneer life. But if you look closer, the paint is peeling, revealing something much darker underneath. Fans are still stunned by the real, unedited scenes that happen daily, showing the true colors of the cast. This is just the tip of the iceberg. The set was reportedly soaked in spirits, major stars despised each other, and Michael Landon himself was hiding a huge secret. We're exposing the shocking behind-the-scenes drama that changes how you'll see the show forever. Behind the wholesome mask. Think of Little House on the Prairie as a perfectly painted picture of pioneer life. But if you look closer, the paint is peeling, revealing something much darker underneath. Fans are still stunned by the real, unedited scenes that happen daily, showing the true colors of the cast. This is just the tip of the iceberg. The set was reportedly soaked in spirits, major stars despised each other, and Michael Landon himself was hiding a huge secret. We're exposing the shocking behind-the-scenes drama that changes how you'll see the show forever. You see, the show captured the hearts of millions by showing the essence of 19th century settler life. But the reality lurking off camera was, to put it mildly, a different story. Many people are crazy about the show, but they don't know the half of it. Let's start with the sisters, Laura and Mary Ingalls. On screen, they were devoted siblings. But the thing nobody tells you is that in real life, the two Melissas, Melissa Gilbert, who played Laura, and Melissa Sue Anderson, who played Mary, could not stand each other. Their feud was not just gossip, it was a fiery divide that lasted the entire run of the series. Imagine working for 9 years alongside someone you absolutely despise. Gilbert later wrote in her memoir that Anderson was cold, bratty, and aloof. The tension got so bad that other cast members didn't even want to deal with them. What many overlooked was that this bitterness was the real, unedited scene happening every single day. But not all rivalries were real. In a bizarre twist, Laura's on-screen nemesis, the spoiled Nellie Olson, was actually her best friend in real life. Melissa Gilbert and Allison Arngrim, who played Nellie, were inseparable. They were so close they had sleepovers, and their families were friends. This friendship, however, led to some uncomfortable moments for Gilbert. When Laura's character began her romance with Almanzo Wilder, played by Dean Butler, Melissa Gilbert was just 15 years old. Butler was 23. This was her first real-life kiss, and the age gap made her incredibly uneasy. She turned to her father figure, Michael Landon, who thankfully agreed to change the scene to a simple peck on the cheek. This brings us to another shocking scene that played out constantly. Gilbert's friends, Allison Arngrim and Steve Tracy, who played Nellie's husband Percival, decided to mercilessly tease her about her innocence. Here's the kicker. Steve Tracy was openly gay in real life, but he and Arngrim would engage in over-the-top, passionate makeout sessions right in front of Gilbert just to make her agonized. They went out of their way to make their displays of affection as in-your-face as possible, all while Gilbert's on-screen romance was kept as tame as possible. This was the kind of emotionally insensitive prank that defined the set, and it all started from the top. Michael Landon himself was the king of practical jokes, some of which went way too far. He once put saran wrap over a toilet, but his most famous prank was catching frogs at the creek, putting the live amphibians in his mouth, and then opening his mouth to let the frog jump out at unsuspecting cast and crew members. But the real-life setting was far from idyllic. The show was filmed at Big Sky Movie Ranch in Simi Valley, California. In the summer, temperatures would routinely soar well above 100 degrees Fahrenheit. The cast was forced to wear heavy, layered wool costumes from the 1800s, leading to multiple cast members, especially the children, fainting from heat exhaustion. The town of Walnut Grove, Minnesota, is a real place, but it's nothing like the show. Laura Ingalls Wilder did live there for several years. Today, the real town is tiny, with a population of only around 800 and a land area of just 1 square mile. It's a far cry from the bustling center of activity seen on TV, but Landon's pranks were hiding a much more serious set culture. Pa's private demons. Michael Landon was the heart of Little House on the Prairie. He wasn't just the star, he was the director, writer, and producer. To Melissa Gilbert, who experienced a tragic family loss at age 11, Landon became a beloved father figure. But not all things are what they seem. This beloved family man was battling some serious demons. According to Melissa Gilbert's own memoir, Landon was one of the heaviest drinkers on set. She wrote that he would start his day with a coffee spiked with liquor and would keep the drinks flowing all day long. He was known for having a laughing drunk personality, so most folks on set, especially the kids, had no clue how much he was really consuming. The crew reportedly had their own issues. It's been said they polished off 230 racks of Coors every day. Some especially stressful days were even called 3-case days. Landon's dependency on spirits was kept under wraps for a long time, but it was part of a complicated life he kept hidden from the public. What many overlooked was that Michael Landon was just a stage name. He was born Eugene Maurice Orowitz. While his character, Charles Ingalls, was often seen pushing a Christian message, Landon was Jewish. His father was Jewish and his mother was Catholic, but he identified with his father's cultural identity. He didn't subscribe to any organized religion, but he was a firm believer in God. Another one of his famous secrets was his hair. Those lush brunette curls were not all natural. His real hair color was a muted, ashy brown that started graying early. He took his hair color so seriously that he had it professionally dyed. The only problem? The set lights and the bright California sun would bake the dye, often turning his hair a bizarre purplish hue. Producers had to call in professional colorists constantly to fix the issue. But his hair wasn't the biggest scandal he created. His relationship with Melissa Gilbert was shattered when Landon divorced his wife to pursue a romantic interest with the on-set makeup artist, Cindy Clarico. Gilbert, whose own parents had divorced, felt betrayed by his decision and cut off all contact with him for a long time. They only made up years later, when Landon received a serious health diagnosis. After he passed away, she even named her son Michael in his memory. Landon's own childhood was incredibly difficult. He reported that during his youth, he constantly worried about his mother's attempts to end her own suffering. He recalled a family beach vacation where his mother tried to walk into the ocean, and he had to rescue her. The stress from this caused Landon to battle bedwetting, and his mother would cruelly put the wet sheets on display outside his window for everyone to see. This background perhaps explains the complex and sometimes dark man he became. Landon's personal life wasn't the only thing creating drama. The show itself was pushing boundaries. Little House, big issues. In general, Little House on the Prairie had a lighthearted, family-friendly tone. But the thing nobody tells you is that, from time to time, the show dealt with some incredibly heavy themes. This was an era when television was just beginning to push the boundaries of what was acceptable to show in people's living rooms. The idyllic town of Walnut Grove was not spared from the darkest parts of life. The show tackled serious offenses, harmful substance dependency, racism, prejudice, adoption, and disabilities. These became frequent topics for the trailblazing series. Very few programs at the time were willing to touch these subjects, especially not a family show. In that way, Little House was decades ahead of its time. But while the show was tackling social issues, the production itself was full of strange mistakes and bloopers that, when you see them, are impossible to unsee. These are the real unedited scenes that still shock viewers. One of the funniest is the appearance of Colonel Sanders, the founder of Kentucky Fried Chicken. In a Season 8 episode, he shows up and offers Harriet Olsen a deal to open her own chicken franchise. The problem? The show was set in the 1870s and 1880s. Colonel Sanders wasn't even born until 1890, and KFC wasn't founded until 1952. Another hilarious oversight is Laura's pregnancy. Fans did the math, and it turns out Laura was pregnant for a little over a year. She announced her pregnancy in a warm season, but by the next summer she was still expecting. And in one intense episode, an assailant tries to throw Albert off a moving train. But if you watch closely, you can spot the unedited mistake. A clearly visible dummy is hurled from the train, landing stiffly in the grass, while the actual stuntman gracefully rolls down the hill right past it. It's a comical contrast in a supposedly dramatic moment. Even the set dressing was recycled. Observant fans noticed that the same exact family quilt kept magically moving. It appeared on the Olisons' bed, on Charles's parents' bed, and on the beds of other random characters throughout the series. Another subtle blooper is the noisy tree branches outside the girls' upstairs window. In at least 2 episodes, the branches are seen and heard rustling wildly, as if in a strong wind. But in every wide shot of the house, there is no such tree anywhere near that window. It was likely just stock footage used to create atmosphere. Even the clothing was wrong. This is a common issue for historical shows, but Little House had some bad ones. Caroline can sometimes be seen wearing a bra, which was not invented until 1912. And many of the women had perms and hairstyles straight out of the 1970s, not the 1880s. But no mistake was as confusing as the story of one main character. What really happened to Albert? One continuity error has stood out among Little House fans for decades. It revolves around Albert, the adopted son of Charles and Caroline. In a made-for-TV movie, the story heavily implies that Albert meets a tragic end from an illness. But here's the kicker. In another episode, it was clearly stated that Albert grows up to become the esteemed doctor of Walnut Grove. So, which is it? This discrepancy has bothered fans forever. One fan on Reddit apparently mentioned it so many times that her boyfriend arranged for Melissa Gilbert herself to send a personalized video message to explain the confusion. Gilbert's response was, to put it mildly, hilarious. She acknowledged the perplexing situation and admitted that at the time, nobody on the crew seemed concerned about the conflicting stories. She then offered her own imaginative, tongue-in-cheek explanation. She proposed that Albert did meet his fate in the movie, but in a whimsical turn of events, he returned to the town as a zombie. That's right, an undead doctor serving the good people of Walnut Grove. It was a joke, of course, but it highlights how little the show cared about its own timeline. The show's timeline issues were already piling up, but the problems certainly didn't stop with minor seasonal errors. The grand finale, The Last Farewell, stands as perhaps the single biggest unedited mistake in the entire franchise. The episode doesn't just fudge a date, it plants its flag firmly and explicitly in the year 1901. This setting is staggering when you stop to consider it. This is over a decade after the events of the final season, which were clearly set in the late 1880s. If we follow this logic, the beloved adult characters, Charles and Caroline, would have been in their 60s or possibly even their 70s. This isn't just a fan theory. The real-life Charles Ingalls passed away just 1 year later, in 1902, highlighting just how late in their lives this story is supposed to be. And what about the children? The kids from the final seasons, including Carrie, James, and Cassandra, would have all been young adults. They wouldn't be running to the schoolhouse. They'd be starting their own lives, possibly with families of their own. Yet, curiously, no one on the show seems to have aged a single day. It's not just a lack of gray hair or a few wrinkles. It's as if time stood completely still, freezing the entire cast in a perpetual state of youthfulness. They look exactly as they did in the previous season, without a single line added to their faces. This is made even weirder when you remember the specifics from the Season 9 premiere. In that episode, Laura's own voiceover explicitly mentions that it's the spring of 1887. This means there is a full, undeniable 14-year gap between that season and The Last Farewell. 14 years, a decade and a half. It's an enormous jump in time, yet the episode presents it as if only a couple of years have passed. It's a baffling conclusion that completely ignores the show's own established timeline. That's all for today. Was Michael Landon a genius or a tyrant? Let us know your thoughts below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more hidden truths.